still ongoing concern from our audience members having to do with the county commissioner's involvement. And the question simply is, and you may correct this if this is incorrect, but it says, why are we allowing the commissioners to mess with this money/fund? Question. Why are we allowing the commissioners to mess with this money or fund? Elect.
Okay, well, I'm assuming you're talking about the Voters and Human Services Levy and not the Veterans Assistance Fund Levy. And the commissioners really aren't messing with it. They're required by law to sign contracts. They do delegate some authority to department heads to sign contracts as well. And so it's really incumbent upon the citizens' advisory boards to help develop the programs, and incumbent upon the Department of Personnel to give them guidance in that regard. In regards to the Veterans Assistance Fund, yes, they did cut out one year $300,000, or they didn't collect the revenue for the Veterans Assistance Fund. We had projected prior to that the fund was going to run out anyway, or run down to the point of revenue in, revenue out. And so when nothing was a surprises at all in regards to where we are today, because they lowered the amount of money.
Thank you. Jack?
Well, there can be no doubt that the commissioners are using the existing property tax dollars for veterans to assist in balancing the general fund budget. There is no firm, absolute guidance currently available for this levy that would preclude misuse on the part of what we would consider misuse on the part of the commissioners. I have little or no faith that that will come about. Instead of this levy, how about we do something else? How about we start looking at ways to create jobs in Kitsap County so we can put veterans back to work instead of perpetually keeping them on the dole? That's it, Frank.
Actually, the Veterans Assistance Fund did that. You know, we hired an organization called Washington Cash, which trains folks on how to start their own business. And we did it, we had a fall class in December 2009 and 2 classes in 2010. And we taught veterans how to start their own businesses. We had, I think, 57 entered total, started the sessions, and I think 47 finished, and half of them, by the time that they finished, had or were applying for their business license. So we have done that in the past. And the levy money could probably be used for that as well.
Since we had a double answer on that from live, Jack, do you want a double answer?
Yeah, why not? We have something in this state there called port districts. Port districts exist for one reason and one reason only, and that is economic development. It is a port district's responsibility to provide the kind of training Leif's talking about for starting up new and small businesses. If the port districts are not doing their job, the answer is not creating new tax. The answer is find port commissioners who understand what they are supposed to be doing and make that happen. The same thing is true of any elected official. If you see an elected official who is not, in fact, performing the tasks that they were supposed to perform, fire them. Find somebody who will do that job. Just remember, the primary duty of every elected official is to maintain and protect individual rights, not some group effort.
Okay.
So, you got any port commissioners?
Let me move on to the next question, and this goes to Jack. And actually, this one is a follow-up, Jack, from one of our audience members, which says, a comment that you made earlier. And the question is, Jack, are you then, this has to do with, let me finish the question, then hopefully you'll remember the context of the question. Jack, are you then suggesting the county commissioners raise the existing veterans current levy rate? If so, by how much? To the maximum, which is, I believe you said 28 cents per 1,000. Is that what you're suggesting?
No, I'm just suggesting that they continue to fund it as they are supposed to be doing, as opposed to diverting the funds into the general fund to balance the budget, simply because there is no apparent need on the instant to use that money. The reserve is gone not because it was spent, it's because it wasn't funded. I do not favor an increase in any tax for any purpose. If you want to give money to support a human services program, please give it to a human services provider or to the United Way. The county is not a human services provider. That is not a core function of government.
So I don't know if you want to address
Well, I
that.
actually don't. I do. You know, we are getting revenue. We're you know, for this year, we're going to probably get around $319,000, you know, in the Veterans Assistance Fund. So it was the revenue was just gone for 1 year, and it has been reinstated. And actually, the county does have experience in providing, as a direct provider of human services. One of the things the county, you know, operates is the Kitsap Recovery Center, which is an inpatient alcohol and drug abuse as well as an outpatient place. And I think it has 48 beds. I'm not exactly, I can't remember for sure. But because state funding went down a year ago for providing those kind of services, the county turned 6 of those beds into beds for homeless people.
Okay. And staying with you then, like, there's a question that is, let me stay with this one. It says, and perhaps you can provide the context for this one as well, which is how much have we lost and will we lose in recording fees? You know the answer to that?
I can't remember, but she knows the answer, I believe.
Wait, is this a lifeline call?
Yeah, this is a lifeline call.
Audience, do we allow lifeline calls?
I don't want to do a, you know, just arbitrarily say I think it's $500,000 when I could be wrong, because I want you to have the right information, you know, even if it's detrimental to my position.
Yeah, it's going down. It's been going down because the recording fees have gone down. Less houses are being sold, so there's less recording fees being taken. And then there is a recording fee, and I can't remember the exact amount, that sunsets in 2013. So in July of 2013, that particular fee will no longer be collected, and it's at least $10 over 28.
So back to you then is, where does this fit into the levy?
Well, you know, the levy extended over 6 years, it will help fill these gaps that are developing because of the lack of federal and state funding, and then also the organization, the nonprofit organizations, their own funding is going back because of contributions are going down. And so it will help fill that, and at the same time, it can be used for developing programs where the services are missing that we need.
Okay, thank you. Jack, would you like to?
I get to answer that one.
You want to, please.
Yeah, I find it interesting that what is supposed to be a primary source for funding for homeless programs is essentially non-definable. We don't know how much money is in fact collected yearly in that program and passed on for homeless support. The issue that in fact the receipts are going down then goes back to the question of why. If the homes aren't being sold and there isn't enough money in recording fees, perhaps the issue is not homelessness, but it's the fact that we have an environment in this county that in fact restricts growth of business, that restricts growth in general for people who would like to live here, and therein lies part of the problem. Maybe we can get rid of some of the stupid regulations and we can make this county grow.
Thank you. Okay, so this is a follow-up question to some discussion we had earlier in some of our answers. And the question just simply is phrased as this: isn't it fraud to the voters that a levy is passed and then the rules are formed? Jack?
It's not fraud, it's just the way we do things here in Kitsap County.
That's part of what's wrong.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Lifer. Go on, good.
Oh, I don't think it's fraud either. I think it's the appropriate way to do it because the amount of planning is going to be intensive. And the planning has to involve all the players. It can't just be the county coming forth and saying, okay, this is the way it's going to be, period. This is how much you get. The county needs to talk to the professionals and they need to work together to understand the entire global picture of homelessness in Kitsap County. That's one of the things that's actually lacking. You know, we have a wonderful continuum of care, but it's not entirely sharply focused, and it has to come together and be sharply focused. Through this service improvement plan, which will look at all the gaps in service as well as the gaps in financing, we can come up with a plan that sharply focuses on the needs of the community, and that it also has the flexibility of filling those different kinds of gaps as the best it can.
Thank you.
Since Leif jumped and double answered, I'm going to take my option to double answer on this one.
Sorry.
Then
What Leif just told us is we don't know what we're going to spend the money on. Pass the levy and we'll tell you what it contains. Where have we heard that before? Man, Nancy Pelosi has moved to Kitsap. Ladies and gentlemen, you do not do this. How many school levies have failed because the school district did not provide specific information as to what that money was to be spent for before they asked for voter approval? In this case, when we are dealing with something as loose and free as veterans assistance and homeless assistance, we need an absolute positive plan that identifies what services are going to be provided at what level and to whom before we even start to ask people to fund it.
All right, so we have point. You want a counterpoint? It's your option.
You can
You know, the reality is that we have two different approaches. And the approach is that whenever you plan, you have to include all the people that are going to be a part of that plan. And none of the money can be spent until that plan's finished.
Okay. So moving on to our next question, which is, how many homeless shelters already exist within Kitsap County? Like all churches, private charity, and government? Are they not? The church, private charity, and government funded? I believe that's the question.
Who starts? Me?
Well, I think we...
You want me to start?
Yes, since we ended with you.
Okay, there's different kind of housing. There's emergency shelters, and right now we do not have an emergency shelter that runs 24/7, 365 days a year. Benedict House has some beds reserved for emergencies. I think George's House may have some, as well as the St. Vincent de Paul's Women's Shelter has some. The difficulty with the emergency side is that these beds are constantly full. In addition to those same organizations, they also have what's called transitional housing, which they can stay up until 90 days. But I think the women's shelter is, they can actually stay longer than 90 days. So we're at capacity. We have over 300 beds that are transitional housing beds. Now Building 9, which is at Retzel, it specializes in helping homeless veterans. They have a veteran service center there, and then they also have 60 beds for transitional veterans, and 48 of those beds are filled right now. But because they're on the campus of a vulnerable population, the veterans' home, they have certain limitations in regards to who they can put in those beds.
Thank you. Jack?
There is, on the website at Kitsap County, you will find a complete listing of all of the agencies that provide not only emergency but transitional housing and other services to the homeless, and in some cases specifications for veterans. There's not enough. There never will be enough. But this levy is not the answer unless we intend to build a barracks and a mess hall to house people in, and that's not something that the county is allowed to do. Salvation Army this year ran a Sally's Camp where they took care of 72 adults, 66 kids, 46 families, cost them $12,000 a month. And if you take that across the year and you figure the total number of homeless audited in the county, that comes out to like $350,000 a year. That's not $1.3 million.
Okay. And Jack, this is actually a follow-up question to something that was just mentioned earlier regarding Retzel Building Number 9. And the question is simply that. Retzel Building 9 is expanding services. How will this levy affect those people? Jack?
And the answer is it won't. One of the things that is, one of the criteria that the state and the federal government established for use of, for provision of veterans assistance is in fact a level of discharge or release from active duty and a type of service. If you don't meet the criteria, you won't get in. Now, last night we had a presentation where I was told, as was a group, that in fact this levy would expand services to cover the people not currently identified under law as veterans. And I would question, why would we want to do that? Look, being a veteran deserves the respect of the people of this country. It is not a direct pipeline into our wallets forever.
Thank you.
Okay, Building 9 in regards to the levy. Yes, the people in Building 9 would be eligible for the, for levy help, depending on what their needs are. We work with Building 9 all the time. Some of the veterans that go into Building 9 have to go through a waiting period because they have to be approved by VA before they get in there. And so it's not uncommon for the folks that run the transitional center to use the Veterans Assistance Fund to help that particular veteran. So the answer to that is, if a person's in Building 9, that's not going to stop them from accessing, help through the levy, that I can see of anyway.
Thank you. All right, and I'm looking at our time, and we are really running short here, so this may be like our last question. And let me ask it, and if we can, we'll try to squeak another question in. But the question here is, specifically to the levy, how much of the $6 million plus is allocated to developing the plan? What is the dollar amount, or what is the percentage per year? And I'll go line.
Well, if you look in the thick one, the stapled one, you'll see in there that on the last 2 pages it was amended after the first one was written, is that the county can't exceed 5% over the entire spectrum of the 6-year period in regards to administrating the funds from the levy. There is an exception, and that's the development of the service improvement plan, which probably won't exceed more than 5% anyway. So, and that's a guess off the top of my head.
5% of $9 million is an awful lot of money. And to have to sit down and develop a new plan, and to not have that plan in place right now to support this levy, we need to go out and canvass people. We need to go out and survey people. If we do not understand the need that this money would go for, how can we possibly ask for it? It's interesting when we, at the United Way, when we have agencies come in each year, they need to justify every penny they are asking for with past history, with demonstrated need, with data. That is not present in this case. We're simply saying, give us $9 million and we'll figure out what to do with it. We already do that with the county. We don't need to expand it.
Okay, so with it, that brings us to our last 4 minutes, and we allow each one of our guests to have 2 minutes to give you a summary of their position or to address anything that they may have missed in their presentation, or to target in on a specific question of interest that they want to share with you. Before we go there, next week Tuesday,
we're hoping to have the 1183 campaign for the privatization of.
So next week we're looking to
Please
have
check our website.
The 1183 campaign. We hope to have a pro-con presentation on the 1183 proposal.
And on the 27th, the reduction of the Bremerton City Council.
And on the 27th, we hope to have some candidates or guests to talk to us about the proposed reduction of the Bremerton School
City Council.
City Council, sorry, the City Council. Reduction of the City Council of Bremerton. Okay, so with that, we began this session and we will let Jack begin for concluding remarks. Jack, please.
Thanks for getting up early. I haven't done Reveille this early in the morning in a long time. The one thing we have not talked about is how do you get into the Veterans Administration Services. And it's a group called Veteran Service Officers. These are volunteers who in fact belong to veteran service groups like the VFW or the American Legion, who volunteer their time, their energy, and their home post currently pays for the facilities and the services for a person to basically access the Veterans Administration and services available. If we're going to support something, that's the first line that we ought to support. Now, I have great difficulty with this levy because it victimizes veterans. And I'm here to tell you, veterans are not victims. We are, each and every one of us, proud of our country, proud of our service, and proud of our ability to help each other. We do not need continued government support to help us do the things that we need to do in our lives. What we would really prefer is for government to get the hell out of the way and let us live up to the ideals that we serve to defend. I am voting no on this levy, and I urge you to do the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Jack's right.
Go ahead, please.
Veteran service officers, these volunteer service officers, are a valuable asset to our community, and they are actively involved in the county's Veterans Assistance Program, which currently exists. They're the first door to get into the program, and they've done a wonderful job. This levy is important because, no, veterans are not victims, and I'm proud of being a veteran, and I'm not one bit ashamed about going to Vietnam. But our veterans are coming back and they need help. Our Vietnam veterans still need help. The current Veterans Assistance Fund is collecting $300,000 a year. We have a reserve of $180,000 that we won't go below. So we're right now at the point of where we're breaking even. We spent down the balance of $1 million to get the hands into veterans because that money wasn't doing any good just sitting in the bank. And we've done that. We've tripled the amount of veterans that we've served in the last 3 or 4 years. So that's why this levy is important. The wonderful work that United Way does and Kitsap Community Foundation does is not enough. Our volunteer contributions that we make to our favorite charities is not enough. We need to come together as a community, be compassionate, have good common sense, and vote for this levy because it will definitely help those in need right now.
All right, I want to thank both our guests for coming out.